Hello, Year 9. So this is part 3, which is the final part of the live theatre evaluation. This is where you learn to write the essay. So a quick recap before we start. Lesson 1, we looked at key terminology used within drama and created a set of live theatre notes for 3 moments focusing on the vocal and physical acting skills. Lesson 2, we looked at key terminology used within drama when writing about lighting. We also created live theatre notes of 3 moments focusing on the lighting. So your learning objective today is to learn how to decode a live theatre question, write an effective introduction, and structure an effective paragraph. I would suggest that you write notes as you're watching this, as I'm going to be giving you a lot of information how to write the essay at the end of this lesson. So before we get right into it, what is the live theatre essay? So the written exam consists of 2 sections. Section A, which are questions on your set text. The current year 10s and 11s looked at Missing Dan Nolan, which is worth 50 marks. Section B, the live theatre analysis, which is 30 marks. This is what we are learning to write today. The 30 marks are broken down into 2 categories. You have 20 marks for the main essay and you have 10 marks for your use of terminology. So when we talk about tone of voice, that word tone is use of terminology. So it's really important you use those sheets that I gave you a couple of weeks ago with the keywords and the adjective bank. So this one question that you are going to get for your essay is worth 30 marks, as I've just said. And you have 2 kind of objectives from the exam board. One is to demonstrate knowledge and understanding of how drama and theatre is developed and performed. That's your keywords. And analyse and evaluate your own work and the work of others. At this stage, you don't need to worry about that too much, but it is just some information for you. So what is the live theatre essay? So when you're asked to write your live theatre essay, you are being tested on your ability to describe specific examples of a performance in vivid detail. Now, vivid means really, really clear. Explain how theatre makers, now a theatre maker is an actor, a dancer, a director, everybody that is involved in getting a production on the stage. So explain how theatre makers use their skills using subject-specific terminology. That's that sheet that I was talking about again. Analyze the reasons why theatre makers use their skills. Why did they shout and use their voice? Why did they use an aggressive tone of voice? Why did they use the facial expression of a frown? And evaluate the success of the skills used according to the needs and demands of the production overall. So let's get into it then. So part 1, which is to decode a live theatre question. Now, when we break down the question, we need to use an acronym, and the acronym that I'm going to teach you is LIP. L stands for location, I stands for instruction, and P stands for performance. Now, the L, which is location, refers to the location within the play that the question wants you to talk about. So if it said at the beginning of your play, you would know that you only can talk about the beginning. If it says the live theatre production, you know you can talk about the whole thing. If it says choose one moment, you know that you can only choose one scene. So L stands for the location. I is the instruction. These are the things that you must do. For example, if it says explain or justify or analyze, if it said give 3 examples, you know that you have to give 3. So those are the things that you have to do. And P is for performance, which is any performative element within the question. It does want you to talk, if it wants you to talk about lighting, acting, props, so it might say talk about acting or talk about lighting or talk about props. That's where is the performative element within the question. So breaking down the question then. So this is an example question. This is not the question that you are going to be answering today. I'm going to read the question first of all, and as I go, if you can make a mental note of where you think the location, what does the question, what part of the play does the question want you to talk about? The instruction, what are the things you have to do, and what are the performative elements? So, evaluate the visual impact a live production had on you as an audience member. You must include examples from the live performance you have seen in your answer. At the start of your answer, state the name, venue, and date, month, and year of the live performance you have seen. So let's break it down together. The location, a live production. So you could talk about the whole thing. It doesn't say evaluate the visual impact from the opening moments. So it doesn't say evaluate the visual impact of one scene. It says evaluate the visual impact of a live production. So because it's not specific, you can talk about the whole thing. Instruction, the things that you have to do. So you have to evaluate. So you have to weigh up the positives and the negatives. So evaluate the visual impact a live production had on you as an audience member. If you start talking about the little old lady 3 seats down from you, imagining you're in the theatre, well, you don't know what their experience is, so it wants you to talk about your own experience. So had on you as an audience member, you must include examples. If you don't include examples, then you can't have any marks. It specifically said you must include examples. It also says at the start of your answer, state the name, venue, date, month, and year of the performance you have seen. Now, although you haven't seen it in a venue and you didn't see it on a particular date, we're going to come back to that in a minute and I'll tell you what to do. Okay, so the last part is the performative element. Evaluate the visual impact. Now, when we talk about visual impact, that is everything that you can see with your eyes. So for this question, you could talk about acting skills, you could talk about lighting, you could talk about props, you could talk about the set, you could talk about the costume. You couldn't talk about the sound effects because that's not visual, okay? And the live performance, that's everything within the live performance. So the next question, this is your question, and this will be the question that you are going to be answering today when you write your essay. So we are going to break this down together. I'm going to help you out. So describe in detail how one or more actors use their acting skills in an effective way in your favourite moments from the production. Analyze and evaluate why they were especially skillful in communicating their character in your opinion. So the location. It says in your favourite moments from the production. So you can choose any moments from the production that you would like to talk about. It is not specific. When I talk about a moment, I'm talking about a scene or a little section. We looked at various moments when we were writing our live theatre notes. The instruction, the things you have to do. So describe in detail. So remember that vivid detail. If you haven't described in vivid detail, you can't have the marks. It wants you to talk about one or more actors. So it's saying you should talk about one or more. Okay. It's asking you to analyze and evaluate. And again, in your opinion, not the little old lady sat next to you, but from your perspective. Now, in English, they ask you not to talk in first person. However, in a drama essay, you can say I. That is the question that you are going to be answering. The last part is the performative element, which is their acting skills. So you could talk about their physical acting skills or their vocal acting skills, like you have written on your live theatre notes, and why they were especially skillful in communicating their character. So the way in which they communicate that character is through those acting skills, which is the performative element. On your task sheet that I provided you with, you'll see that I've put the question there. I'd like you now to go back there, maybe with some highlighters if you're doing it on a piece of paper, or if you're doing it on the computer, I'd like you just to highlight where the location is, where the instruction is, where the performance is, so I know that you've been following along. Do that now, please. So now we've broken down the question, we're going to move on to part 2, which is where we write an effective introduction. Now, it's really, really important that you provide this introduction for the examiner. So the introduction. The intro is where you give the context. This is the context is the information the examiner needs to understand about the play you saw. So it needs to understand the name of the play you saw. It needs to understand when you saw it and what you think about it. So in the introduction, there are 4 things that you need to include. Number 1 is the production date and venue. Number 2 is a summary of the play. This is a maximum of 2 sentences. Number 3 is the style and genre of the play. And number 4 is a sentence that outlines what you'll be writing about in the essay. So, for example, production date and venue. I saw the curious incident of the dog in the nighttime at the Piccadilly Theatre, London, on Thursday the 6th of December 2018. In a minute, we're going to come back to that because I know that you didn't actually go and see Blood Brothers, so I'll tell you how to write that separately. The next part is a summary of the play. 2 sentences maximum that sum up the play perfectly. Now, if you are not too sure how to sum up the play Blood Brothers, go and Google it. You don't need me to tell you that part. The third part is the style and genre of the play with a reason as to how you know this style and genre is right. The play was a crime mystery due to the fact that the audience followed the central character Christopher as he solves the mystery of who kills the dog Wellington. The play is non-naturalistic, so this is the style here, with elements of naturalism. The characters and the narrative are portrayed in a very naturalistic way. However, the way in which this is shown on stage uses many non-naturalistic techniques such as tableau, physical theatre and mime. Now, when you start talking about the style and genre, you know what the style is of Blood Brothers because we went through it in lesson 1. You also know what the genre is because we went through that in lesson 1. If you are unsure, either you can message me or you can have a little try yourself by Googling it. And the last part is a sentence that outlines what you'll be writing about in this essay. This must link to the question. I'm going to show you this one more time. Have a look. This is the full thing. I saw a production of the curious incident of the dog in the nighttime at the Piccadilly Theatre, London on Thursday the 6th of December 2018. This was a brilliant and moving play following a young boy with Asperger's syndrome, a form of autism, who sets out on a mission to find out who killed Wellington the dog. The play was non-naturalistic with elements of naturalism, crime mystery drama that portrays the characters in a very real way whilst using many different and interesting techniques. The play was absolutely amazing, and the way the actor portrayed the central character Christopher really did go a long way in showing what it is like to have Asperger's. The final part in this essay, I will be writing about how one or more actors use their acting skills in an effective way at various moments. I will be analysing and evaluating why they were effective in the way they communicated their role. So you've just read and listened to my example of an introduction. I didn't write it for Blood Brothers, I wrote it for Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime. A couple of notes. At the top where I said you have to write about the production date and venue, I saw the curious incident of the dog in the nighttime at the Piccadilly Theatre, London on Thursday the 6th of December 2018. You can change this to I saw a recorded production of Blood Brothers performed by a high school in June 2020. You can use that exact sentence if you would like. So task 1 then, you should now go away and write your introduction. Remember, you need to include those 4 things: production, date and venue, a summary of the play, the style and genre, a sentence that outlines what you'll be writing about in this essay. You might want to use the help sheet to guide you throughout writing your introduction, and remember, follow the structure that we have just been through. Do that now, please. So hopefully now you've written your introduction, and we're going to move on to part 3. Now part 3 is about how to structure an effective paragraph. We're going to be looking at how to structure the effective paragraph, then how to structure an essay, and then we're going to move on to the final task. So the essay. So when we're structuring an effective paragraph, you need to be writing in what I like to call developed points. So if you've already read the help sheet, you will see that I've mentioned about developed points. So it's almost like your PEE or Peter that you use in English, but in drama we have state, explain, analyze, and evaluate. So state, what skill was used effectively, where and how this answers the question. I'm going to give you an example in a moment. Explain, how were these skills used? And you should be linking one of the drama terminology words to the adjective words. For example, tone of voice. And then the final part is to analyze and evaluate why the skills were used, plus personal valuation linked to the whole play. When you analyze, you ask why. Why was something effective? Why did they do that for? Evaluate needs to come from your own opinion. So writing your first point using the structure we just looked at. Now I have written a very small example which have come directly from the live theatre notes that we wrote together. So the first part, state what the skill was that was used effectively, where and how this answered the question. So in the opening moments, we're in the first interaction between the two characters, Miss Loynes and Miss Johnson. The actors used their physical acting skills to communicate a difference in status between the two characters. Now status is still an acting skill. Explain how the skills were used linked to the adjective to the big sheet word. So this is where I explain in more detail exactly what they did to show the status. So both actors used levels and posture to communicate this difference. Mr. L was standing tall with an upright posture showing a high status and professional attitude, while Miss J has a hunched over posture whilst cleaning the table and at the same time using a low level to make herself the lower status. Analyze why they did this and evaluate from my opinion. So, in my opinion, I think both of the actors were skillful in the way that they showed the difference in status at the beginning, because I, as an audience member, was able to distinguish the difference clearly. So that's my first point. So now you are going to start with your second task. Now you should use everything that we have discussed so far to help you do this. So you have two choices. Choice 1, which is hot, and choice 2, which is mild. So choice 1, you will follow the instructions on the sheet attached to the homework and complete the full essay, which includes the introduction, 4 developed points with a conclusion at the end, and I will award you 6 house points for that. Choice 2, you will follow the instructions on the sheet and complete half of the essay. Half of the essay includes the introduction and 2 developed points with a conclusion at the end. This would be for 3 house points. So, how to structure the essay choice 1. Now, you're going to first of all write your introduction, which hopefully you've already written. Paragraph 1 is moment 1. So you choose one scene or section that you'd like to talk about and write 1 developed point. You do exactly the same for paragraph 2. Paragraph 3 is your third moment. Now, if you would like to give yourself an extra bit of challenge, instead of saying something that they did that was good, see if you can find something that they did that wasn't so good. If you're a bit unsure about that, just stick to the examples I have given you. The same you do for moment 4 and then your conclusion. Now, conclusions in drama don't need to be quite as effective as English. You just need to say something along the lines of, overall, I enjoyed the production, I thought the acting in it was really effective, and that could be the end of your conclusion. That's absolutely fine. How to structure the essay choice 2. So like choice 1, you'd write the introduction, paragraph 1, which is your first moment, paragraph 2, which is your second moment, and you write 1 developed point for each of those, and then the conclusion. final bits of top tips. These are your keys to success. Number one, remember to describe what was happening in stage in detail using the big sheet words. The more well described you use, the more marks you get. What I mean by that is if you could give your essay to somebody else and they could stand up and act it out, you have described it perfectly well. Okay. Number two, be explicit with linking to the question. Use the language of the question, your answer. So, for example, the actor created a terrifying effect for the audience when he. Okay, be really clear. Number three, when you evaluate how good the actor was, make sure you do it personally and make sure you explain why you think he was so good. In other words, link back to the play's overall aims and intentions. So just to finish off then review learning or learning objective today was to learn how to decode a live theatre question, write an effective introduction and structure an effective paragraph. I know that there was an awful lot there today, but hopefully you can rewind and go back over some of the points a little bit slower and at your own time. Remember to email me your essay as soon as you're done and I will award you those house points.